What's up, guys? My name is Swarm. I'm known online for making necromancers and evil wizards of all kind. Um, so today I'm gonna make a custom origin character. Essentially, we're gonna go for a necromancer, and I'm gonna specialize it to be a wizard. Now, a lot of classes can be necromancer because D&D is so wide and so flexible, right? You could be a bard necromancer, a druid necromancer, warlock, pretty much anything. So obviously this is gonna be an origin character, and I'm just gonna skip straight to the classes, right? On the side here. So any class which has a wide range of spells will be able to become a necromancer. So we're talking bards, cleric, druids, wizard, warlock, sorcerer, and even Oathbreaker Paladin, which is pretty neat, if you ask me. Now, what we're gonna do today is going to be a wizard, and oh my god, I love the little introduction they have for everybody. This is so cool. I'm gonna have to go through all of them at some point. Today's not the day because I want this to serve both as a guide for how to make your own necromancer, and I also want to have this be my very own character. So let's start with what race the necromancer is going to be, the wizard is going to be. Obviously, the origin is going to be custom. This is going to be an evil character mostly, so I could go with dark urges, but I know the dark urges. It's kind of a weird path where you're gonna kill a lot of your friends for seemingly no reason. It's kind of more chaotic evil than what I want it to be. I want my wizard to be evil, but mainly because he wants more power, not necessarily because he is a problematic character. So I'm gonna go with the custom origin, but I will do at some point Dark Urge's character for sure, definitely. So for wizards, we are an intellect class. So I'm gonna go back to the class. I'm gonna go pick wizard, and yeah. So they are an intellect class, as you can see on the side here. I know human in the early access had +1 to all of the ability scores. However, I think that's revolute. It doesn't happen anymore. I think instead you get an additional skill to be proficient in, and your carrying capacity is increased by 1/4, which is pretty nice. However, I think it's a little bit bad. So then what races would be good for a wizard, which is an intelligence class? Well, anything that gives intelligence bonus. So usually, depending on your sub-race, the half-elves are going to give you more intelligence. The elf are also going to give you intelligence, depending on the subclasses. The drow, whatever. the drows aren't really gonna do that. They're gonna give you instead they're gonna give you charisma points, which is pretty good in some cases, but not the best. So I feel like what I'm gonna do is either elf or half elves. So I can look at the sub races for elf. It's been a while, so we have the choice between high elves and wood elves, right? So high elves, what they gain is a high elf cantrip, and then wood elf, what they gain is increased movement. So that's pretty neat. What do half elf have instead? So we have the high half elf, so you get a cantrip. Obviously the wood elf, the wood half elves, which is going to be pretty much the same, and then the drow half elves, which are going to gain a cantrip. Most half drow result in liaison between Seraldine drow and surfacers, while half drows inherit a few magical gifts. They aren't usually raised in the Underdark. Okay. Then we can look at the at the bonuses. Oh, that's interesting. So you gain, so okay, so they kind of twisted it a little bit, right? So usually classes like drows and humans and stuff like that don't necessarily get a whole lot, but they get specific bonuses to some of their some of their stats, right? Drows usually is charisma. Elves is going to be intelligence. Stuff like dwarf is going to be constitution. Dragonborn is going to be charisma in some cases. And strength, it kind of depends a lot. But I think they just changed all of that, so we could be a drow, which is very interesting to me. I think for evil wizard, I think a drow is pretty nice to have. And raised by Lolf, cult of the city of Menzuberanzan, these drow embody the virtues of their corrupt and merciless goddess Lolf. Marks her followers with bright red eyes, so those in the Underdark will learn to fear them on sight. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna go for. So this gives us like normal of 9 meter per turn, which is decent. Weapon training with rapier, short sword, and crossbow, which doesn't really matter for us. Superior dark vision, which is very useful. And then Fey ancestry, which gives us advantage on saving throws against being charm and magic that puts you to sleep. Usually very, very good. Now the elves are getting something fairly similar in general. They just get normal dark vision. Their elven weapon training is a little bit better, but overall I feel Drow is just going to be better in general. Do we get anything different depending on what we choose? No, it's just like the it's just going to be like the Law of Sworn or the Seraldine kind of tag to your text. That's probably going to be all there is to it. We've already chosen the wizard class, and we can see we have cantrip, spells, and action. So for those who don't know, which I'm just gonna assume most people aren't gonna be very knowledgeable when it comes to wizards and D&D and how spell works and how magic work. You're gonna get basically cantrips, which are spells that you can use all the time, no matter the situation. And then you're gonna get spells that require you to expend a spell slot. So these slots are gonna be retrievable over long rest, or if you use something like arcane recovery. So these spells are stronger, but they're more expensive, and you can only use them X amount of time per per day, essentially. So we can look at the cantrips. In general, when you're playing a wizard, this is kind of going to be universal. You want the Firebolt cantrip. This is the highest damage cantrip in the game, and it scales with your level. So it's one of the best cantrip overall. The only other cantrip that's as good as Firebolt is called Eldritch Blast, and sadly only Warlock or people who take Warlock dipping feature or classes are gonna have access to it. So this is going to be our main damage. We can see here we have the spell attack, the spell save, and the int casting. So this basically tells us that the higher our int is, the stronger our spell casting is going to be. Spell save DC usually is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. So we can see on the side here that we have 17 intelligence, which gives us a modifier of +3. It's also kind of hidden somewhere, but you start with a +2 proficiency bonus, and it scales with you over levels. So it starts at +2, and then it goes up and up and up. So at the start, spell save DCs is going to be 8 plus 2, because it's the proficiency bonus, plus 3, which is the intelligence modifier, which is going to give us and round us up at 13. Kind of the same thing with spell attack. So spell attack is going to be if you attack an enemy with a spell specifically, like Firebolt is, you're gonna add +5. Where is the +5 coming from? Well, it's going to be the proficiency bonus plus the intelligence modifier. So we're gonna be able to come back here afterwards whenever I change my stat, and if I manage to get this to like 18, maybe, I don't know what they changed exactly. If I manage to get this to 18, we're gonna see this is going to be up to +6, and this one right here, the spell save DC, is gonna be up to 14, which is pretty good. So for cantrip, usually you want at least one that's gonna be damaging, because that's gonna be your bread and butter in lower impact turn. And then going forward, you kind of want you kind of want cantrips that are gonna make your life easier, right? So since we are a wizard and we're gonna be doing a lot of deception, because we're going to be evil and stuff like that, but our charisma is not that good, we're gonna take friends, right? Friends, while the creature knows it's been charmed, basically you gain advantage on charisma check. Advantage means you get to roll twice, whatever rolls you do. So you gain advantage on charisma checks against non-hostile creature. This spell can be cast while you are silenced. And in higher difficulty modes, the target might accuse you of enchanting them, because after the 10 turns, we can see it's written like 10 turns right here. After that's over, they're gonna know they've been charmed, right? So that's good to take into consideration, but in a lot of spots is gonna help us tremendously. And then there are a few good options, but usually what I'm gonna say to people is going to be take either stuff like Dancing Light or Light, but since we have Superior Dark Vision, which is really nice, I'm gonna take Mage Hand, because that's gonna be really good to set up traps, move stuff around, start fights from far away, and stuff like that. So I think Mage Hand is gonna be very, very good. Onwards to spells. Now you're gonna gain spell every turn. I'm just gonna deselect all of them, and I'm gonna go over which ones I like the most. So as a wizard, you're kind of always gonna have to take mage armor. It's a non-negotiable thing. It just makes it so your AC is very much higher. AC is armor class, and it's basically the number that makes it so you're harder to hit by the enemies, right? So you will kind of have to go with a mage armor no matter what you're doing. Chromatic Orb is going to be the biggest damage dealer at the first few levels, along with Magic Missile. So why both of these, right? Because if one of them is just better than the other, why do I take both? Well, the reason is pretty simple. Chromatic Orb has the chance to miss, whereas Magic Missiles is a guaranteed hit. You don't need to roll for the hit, you only need to roll for the damage. What this means is that against very, very strong enemies where I just want to get damage in, Magic Missile is going to be very good, because it's going to assure me that it's like a promise, right? It's going to assure me that I get this damage done. It's going to make sure that I can deal this one extra point of damage to the enemies, right? Whereas Chromatic Orb is going to deal a lot more damage, but it's kind of a gamble, because it's going to be a spell attack, if I remember correctly. So there is a chance for me to miss the enemy altogether, which is kind of going to be annoying, but also that's the whole point of D&D, right? You can miss your spells. So these two are going to be our big offensive skills. We have our defensive skill. Now we kind of just need utility and crowd control, right? As a wizard at the beginning of the game, you're not going to be putting out the most damage, but you're going to be able to crowd control people very easily. So for this endeavor, there are a few spells that are really good. I'm going to go over the one I'm not going to use right now, just so you kind of know what to expect from them. And all of these spells, by the way, it's completely fine to take one over the other if you like the flavor more, or if you or if you just like the spell better. It's just that I'm going to be doing a lot of shenanigans with this character, and so I kind of want it to be as optimized as possible, even though I'm not playing on necessarily the hardest difficulty. So Burning Hands is a AoE spell, essentially. It's going to be an area of effect spell. It's gonna burn everything that's in front of you for 5 meters. It's really good against weaker enemy, and it's gonna deal 3d6 fire damage. So that's gonna be like 3 to 18 fire damage. It's gonna be pretty good to all the enemies, by the way. The reasons I'm not taking it is that I feel like Chromatic Orb just has more usage, and as a wizard, if you're in range to use Burning Hands, your focus is probably going to be to get the hell away from there than to do damage, right? Charm Person, we have Friend. Charm a humanoid to prevent it from attacking you. You gain advantage on charisma check in dialogue. So the second part is kind of like Friend. And then charm a humanoid to prevent it from attacking you. Well, that's a lot of things, right? The humanoid, like the enemy has to be a humanoid. And I just feel there is better spells that can be there. However, Charm Person is very, very good in some scenarios, and it's entirely up to you if you want to take it or not. Chromatic Aura, I feel, is the best damage source overall, so that's pretty much it. Chorus Spray blinds creatures, kind of the same radius as Burning Hand, and kind of the same reason why I'm not taking it. I feel like there are other CC spells that work best. Disguise Self is pretty good. I might end up taking it, so I'm gonna come back to this one. Expeditious Retreat, gain a dash immediately as a bonus action on each of your turn until the spell ends, until a long rest. So that's pretty good. In 5e, it's gonna be for 10 minutes or something like that, if I remember correctly. This is until a long rest, which is kind of insane. It's balancing it a lot more towards how good it should be. So now that I'm reading the spell, I'm thinking about it. False Life. Gain 7 temporary hit point. Temporary hit point are are hit points, basically, that whenever you lose them, you can't recover them. So they're kind of like an extra shield, if you will. 7 is not that much earlier on, and it's not going to be that much later on. So I think I'm going to skip that one. Featherfall makes you fall slower. Pretty good in some scenarios. Not necessary right now. Longstrider, increase the creature's movement speed by 3 meters until a long rest. They really went ham with how strong these two are. Expeditious Retreat and Longstriders are. Until long rest, that feels very OP. Enhanced Sleep. Triple a creature's jumping distance. Sure. Ice Knife. Throw a shard of ice dealing 1d10 piercing damage. It explodes and deal 2 to 12 cold damage to anyone nearby. It leaves an ice surface. Ice Knife is pretty good in 5e. However, it's not the best, once again, sadly. Grease. Grease is, it really depends. Basically, it creates a surface that people slip on and they're prone. So the effectiveness of Grease is reliant on how effective it is to be prone in the version of the game you're playing. In stuff like Pathfinder, prone is super OP, because whenever you get up, you trigger attack of opportunity from people around you. In 5e, prone is not all that good, because it doesn't even require an action to get up. It only requires half of your movement, which is not that great. So Grease 5e, not the best it could be. There is much better. Fog Cloud, it's kind of darkness. It's not going to be that useful. The radius is 5 meters. You can kind of cast it from super far away, and in some cases it's going to be very, very useful. However, there are better spells overall. Find Familiar. Summon a familiar Fey spirit that takes an animal form of your choosing. I'm actually going to go for this one, because that one is always hilarious. Protection from good and evil. Honestly, this is good, but it's not the best, right? Basically, you protect one ally from a type of monster, and then this ally is gonna get advantage on a bunch of stuff, and people are gonna have a harder time hitting them. However, since it's only one ally, if the AI is good enough or if the DM is good enough, it's just gonna ignore that player when it figures out this spell is in effect. Shield is going to be super useful. When you're about to be hit by an enemy, increase your armor class by 5. You take no damage from magic missile. This is kind of also an obligatory get along with mage armor. This is really good in cases you're gonna go into a huge fight with people who will throw a lot of projectile and be able to attack you from very, very close. I feel like this is always a mistake. I'm gonna skip over these two because these two are the ones I'm gonna take. Thunder Wave does an AoE around you, not very good overall. And then Witch Bolt is kind of like a similar it's kind of a similar damage to Firebolt. The one good thing it has you can link to an enemy, and then every single turn for 10 turn you can do 1d12 damage each turn. However, I don't remember if this is an action or if this is a bonus action. It can be good to take it, but also Chromatic Orb just deals more damage in general when you think like how long turns are like fights are gonna take. So the two other spells I'm gonna take for sure are gonna be Sleep, put creatures into a magical slumber, select target groups to a combined 24 hits. That's really, really strong. And then Tasha's Hideous Laughter. So this is really good on someone, on a specific creature. It's kind of the same as Charm Person, but it doesn't have to be humanoid. However, it does have to have an intelligence of 5 or higher. So it's gonna it's gonna have to be a sentient creature. However, this is a very good like one target shut you down, and I'll come back to you later in this fight. However, for the time being, I think Sleep is just gonna be better. Backgrounds. Ooh. So, before going into backgrounds, there is a few things I'll do. Where do we see the spells that we have? Okay, the skill proficiency. So, we're gonna have a few skill proficiency. And we have a few from being a drow. We have a few from being a mage, but the ones that are going to be very important for us are going to be deception is going to be incredibly important for us. Perception and persuasion arguably are going to be the most vital one, because we're not a charisma class, so we're going to kind of have a harder time, right? And then we can see that perception, since we're a drow. And then the background we have right now. So we're going to switch background, but right now it gives us insight and religion. So we're going to look for a background that gives us deception or persuasion. And then something else, right? And then something else, right? So for the backgrounds, insight, religion, charlatan is going to be deception and sleight of hand, which is pretty cool. Criminal, deception and stealth, all right. Entertainer, acrobatics and performance. Outlander, athletics, survival. Noble, history, persuasion. This one could be interesting. Guild artisan, insight, persuasion. This one could be very interesting, right? Your skills, in particular craft, has earned you the respect of the mercantile guild, offering you privileges and protection while engaging in your art. This is really nice. Folk hero, not the best. Sage, arcana, history, who cares? Athletics and intimidation and urchins is going to be sleight of hand or stealth. So right away, the two ones that kind of jump to me are guild artisan or criminal. And I think I'm going to go for insight and persuasion, just because insight can be really good. However, we are going to be able to tell if people are lying. Charlatan or criminal could be good. I think charlatan, now that I think of it, because sleight of hand is going to be very, very good. for us for a lot of reasons I'm going to touch in a little bit later. So I'm going to go with Charlatan for the time being. And in the abilities, I'm going to choose... so we're going to have a few choice from this. We can see that we have Deception and Sleight of Hand. I'm going to go with Arcana for the proficiency. And I'm also going to go with Insight. I'm pretty sure. Confirm. Alright. And now, the big reveal. The big moment. We have to choose which spell... Which skills we're gonna boost, essentially. So we have +2. Obviously, the +2 is gonna go to intelligence, and then the +1 could go to constitution, but I think I'm just gonna put it to dexterity, just because whatever. So how high can this go? Can go to 17. So we're gonna hit 16. The reason is, for those who don't know as much, is that if the number here doesn't really matter, right? The only number that matters is if you go to the intelligence thing. You can see that right here. It says +3 to intelligence checks. +3 is the modifier, right? So 17 gives +3 and 16 gives +3 as well, because it only goes up every 2 points, meaning you have, like, it's more optimal for you to be on a even an even number. Now there are feats that are going to be useful later, that are going to come whenever you level up, and these are going to allow you to maybe get like a single point in intelligence or something like that. And if we do have a point left over, that's what I'll do. But for the time being, that's going to be fine. We're going to disregard strength. We're going to be a wizard that doesn't really care all that much about strength. So we're going to disregard strength completely. We're going to need a little bit of charisma. Wisdom can pretty much stay where it is. Constitution is going to be pretty good, and then dexterity, and we have 7 points left. So I'm going to actually bring dexterity to 14. Why is that? Because dexterity is taken into account whenever we stealth, whenever we sleight of hand, which is going to be useful, but also is going to be taken into account for the armor class. So it's going to make it harder for enemies to hit me, if that makes sense. After that point, we could... this is going to take 2 points to do this singular plus. Alright, so this is going to be 1 point if we want to do that. However, what we could do is we can go to 14 charisma and 13 constitution, which is kind of lame whenever you think about it. Rather than go to... so I'll use the charisma for sure. So rather than going for constitution, I'm going to go 1 more point into intelligence. The reason is it's going to be easier for me to level up and to take feats if they have any at that point. So that's going to be my spread for this playthrough at the very least. Now, is it optimal? Maybe, maybe not, right? And then for prepared spells. So how mages work is that you have a set amount of prepared spells that you kind of get to use. You can change them every day at every long rest. So it makes it so you're very, very versatile in the mission of the day. So if I need to go and infiltrate somewhere, I'm going to take invisibility and stuff that helps me do it all. If I need to fight, I'm going to take combat spells. So I don't really know how they changed the whole tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Mage Armor, I'm going to take Chromatic Orb, I'm going to take Find Familiar, and I'm also going to take Magic Missile, because there isn't that many things to sleep in the tutorial, and we're going to get a level up whenever we finish the tutorial, right? Now, the last thing that I'm going to do is obviously the appearance. But if you were just looking for a guide on how to make a good wizard to begin with, this is pretty much it. This is a comprehensive guide for the spells, and this is going to be a comprehensive guide for the cantrips as well, the background, the abilities, prepared spell. I will say in this game, I know for a fact Arcana is going to be very useful in general, and you can also kind of rely on your allies to fill the gaps in your stuff, right? So since I'm going to be the one who talks a lot, I really wanted to have a good perception bonus, right? If that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. I'm going to edit my appearance, and I'm going to see you guys on the other side.